大怪盗アルセーヌ・ルパンが残した不思議な宝物ルパンコレクションがギャングラーに奪われた。失ったものを取り戻すために戦う怪盗、世界の平和を守るために戦う警察、君はどっちを応援する？
Hello, and welcome to LupinRecap vs. PatReview, the podcast that's stirring up a storm. I am your host, Lokamasi. With me is my co-host, Fefner Masamune.
Hi, I'm Fefner. How's it going? Let's talk about some Sentai.
Yep, that's what we're here to do, in case you started with episode 12. Before we talk about the show, let's briefly talk about something else, because I've established that's what we do now, even though I should probably abandon it by this point.
No, discussion topics are always good.
Today, let's talk about something very near and dear to children's media in stock plots. Now, we talked in an earlier episode about how there are only 7 different kinds of plots, but that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm thinking more along the lines of, alright, here's the episode where people swap bodies. Here's the episode where... Oh, we just finished the gender swap episode. It's a very specific event that happens, and if you've seen one of them, you've seen a portion of every one of those episodes to exist.
Today we're learning about friendship.
This episode is also one of those, but it's not as obvious as something like... I keep coming back to body swap episodes because that is the one that I notice and I'm not the biggest fan.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I know, alright, it's gonna happen, and then we have anywhere between 1 to 5 minutes of them being upset and uncomfortable about it. And then you can only go 3 different ways from there.
And as we all know, Justice League already did the best version of that episode. Finally, I can learn the Flash's secret identity. I have no idea who this is.
Aren't you gonna wash your hands?
No, 'cause I'm evil.
If I remember right, they didn't change voice actors for the characters.
Think so.
So the Flash was still John DiMaggio, and Lex Luthor was still Clancy Brown, which is amazing for both deliveries. They got the Kurgan to say, no, I'm not going to wash my hands because I'm evil. But I generally see them as sort of a necessary evil. There's nothing original under the sun. So obviously using these as jumping off points for your stories is... I'm just going to say it's a good idea. It may not be the best idea, but it's not a bad idea, so that makes it a good idea.
Especially for kids' media, I think, because there are just some lessons you need to learn, and kids are going to watch stuff like this, so why not?
The general approach to them... oh god, I know I've heard this a lot, but the most recent person to lay this out was Nick Spheres, who I reference a lot, of the... I forget exactly what she called it, but I just remember it as the 3-path way of writing. Also, you're citing writing, so you probably heard of this too. That anytime you do something in a story, movie, anytime you make a decision, there are 3 things you can do. They are Path A, Path B, and Path C. Path A is what everyone does. Path B is what about 50% of people would do. And Path C is something only you would do. So when you start with a stock plot, you already started with Path A.
Yeah.
So you have to sprinkle in as much Path C as you can in every other decision. And I think this show does a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, I think generally with this sort of thing, if you are going to do a stock plot, it's good to explore, what about the particular character sort of makes it a unique spin. Tuma today is actually a really good character to use for this sort of thing, because he's got a different sort of perspective than you'd probably expect. The guest character for today is a little more standard, but then you have Tuma for the outside perspective, and of course he's the main character, so we're attached to him.
And you mentioned Justice League, and one of the reasons that I think Justice League is one of the better superhero media to exist is because you have all these personalities that people think are really similar, but when you put them all in the same room, the differences start to show up.
Oh, yeah.
So a good way to get over a hatred of stock plots, or maybe reinforce it if you pick bad episodes, is just watch several different takes on stock plots, and once you start seeing the differences, it might make you feel better about them.
Yeah.
Or you might not see the differences and just go, why do people keep doing this?
Coincidentally, we did watch an episode of Avatar that this could apply to.
Remind me which one.
The Great Divide, or whatever that episode is called.
Oh, right.
That one's fairly standard.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I'm not sure how I would summarize that stock plot.
Feuding is bad and kind of pointless. Some people just argue over things that are ages past them and that really don't apply to them anymore.
Also, having rewatched it, The Great Divide is not as bad as people say.
It's not terrible, yeah.
There's my nuclear take for Avatar buried in my Sentai podcast.
I mean, I could see how it would be like one of the less good episodes because it's a little bit heavy-handed, but yeah, it's not bad.
I think you said compared to the worst episode of the Sentai we're watching, got fucking nothing.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's enough not talking about the episode. Let's talk about the episode.
So, episode 12, The Magic Bracelets. Was there any interesting alternate title?
Nope.
Didn't figure there would be. It's kind of straight to the point. It's what it's about.
They didn't call it the Mystical Armlet.
My stand, Mystical Armlets. So, what is it with people in this show and being bad at track? First, past Sakya, now this child, whose lap time is 13.23 seconds. That's how we start the episode, with this fool and his terrible track time. I mean, it's better than anything that I could do by a long shot, but both he and his coach are disappointed.
He's probably got like a full minute on me, and that didn't seem like that far of a distance to run.
Still has a full minute.
Of course, I say a full minute, but if you have a heart attack and die, he has infinite minutes on me, technically, because I never finish.
So anyway, clearly that kid doesn't matter, though, because at Police HQ, Jim warns the team of a Ganglar that's moving at incredible speeds. And as fast as this Ganglar moves, we arrive at the intro. That is the coldest open I think we've had thus far.
Yeah, a very quick one. Especially compared to the one in, I think, episode 9, which I swear lasted half the episode.
So we return to the boy, wandering sadly through town. Suddenly, the Ganglar of the Week sweeps through the streets and introduces himself as the elusive Genko Copamino, before throwing some bombs and blowing the block up. Speedy Speed Ganglar is then confronted by the Lupin Rangers, who manage to catch up to him with their Zords. They then butter him up by talking about how fast he is. Just unbelievably fast. Impossibly fast, one could say. You couldn't catch up with him without cheating in some fashion. He's just beautifully fast. So cool. Yellow has his collection piece so he can't run fast anymore, but if not for that, he'd be very fast.
I loved Toma during the scene because I don't think he came across as actually flattering at all.
There's no way he could, it's too much.
He just seemed incredibly sarcastic.
Yeah, you're so great. Go you. So, Yellow...
Sonic wishes he were you.
I should know, I'm blue. Like that hedgehog. The hedgehog is cool and blue as me. So, Yellow throws the bracelet and the ensuing struggle, but it doesn't reach the other Lupin Rangers. Instead, that kid from earlier runs over and picks it up. Average Speed Boy tries to run over and retrieve it, but he's stopped by the Pat Rangers, who are probably confused but relieved that the Gangler is running at a perceivable speed. Everyone begins fighting, and the kid makes a break for it. He may not be good at track, but he's still fast enough to escape a gunfight. Blue tosses Sangu aside and pursues the child, while both the Ganglar and the rest of the Lupin escape under the cover of an explosion. At some park elsewhere in the city, the kid, who I just recalled has a name, which is Yuki, is observing the bracelets. Blue, however, has already caught up. Unlike Kairi, he gets straight to the point and tells Yuki that he should give the bracelet back, as the Ganglar will follow him otherwise. Yuki books it and Blue pursues. Despite all of his parkour skills, he cannot overcome a small hole in a fence, and Yuki gets away. Nonetheless, Blue follows at a distance. Yuki arrives at the hospital, where he meets his wheelchair-bound friend. She asks him if he'll win tomorrow, which he assures her he will. But when she asks if he's broken 11 seconds, he hesitates. But the two get along, and Yuki reveals that he wants to make her laugh so she can get better. Also, her name is Haruka. I cannot introduce these children's names organically. This is my curse. The sun sets as Yuki makes his way home, when he encounters Blue again. Yuki pretends he'd thrown the collection piece away, but Blue knows he just hid it somewhere. Blue then drops the fact that he was eavesdropping. At this point, Yuki decides to tell Blue about his tragic backstory. Or, well, technically this is Haruka's backstory.
I was just about to say, he says Haruka's backstory, but...
It's sort of his as well, considering his poor track performance. She can no longer walk, but she always enjoyed singing and wanted to perform on stage. Yuki doesn't want her to give up on her dream, so he's trying to raise her spirits by doing well at track. After all, if a mere 13.23 second runner can break 11 seconds, she can overcome the discrimination that would come with being a disabled singer. Okay, so this plan doesn't really make sense if you put it like that, but he wants to inspire her, basically.
Yeah,
He's a kid. It doesn't need to be a watertight plan.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I do like this plot because the kid is, I don't want to say sympathetic, but like, you know, you're with him, and the way that he wants to help his friend, it doesn't make sense, like you said, but it does make a sort of sense.
Yeah, he wants to be an inspiration of some variety.
And it's not, like, coddling or condescending. He knows that she can still do it. And 2, it's not a case of, like, he thinks this is going to affect her ability, but he thinks it's going to affect her perception on her ability. Which is a neat take to give this child, because you could have, like, you know, under the guise of, oh, he's a kid, he doesn't know any better, just have him say some ableist bullshit. But instead, he's like, no, she's great. You don't need legs to sing, but the world won't let her.
If I can look cool, then surely she can too. So, Blue tells him to win on his own merit, and that the bracelet won't work for him. Yuki is pretty sure it will, since it looked like the magic bracelet in a book called Sign of Hinano Valley. Blue takes a moment of contemplation, noting that it was a picture book. But by the time he turns back, that kid is out of there. Back at
Twice. That child escaped him twice.
Once from a fence, and the other time because he just had to take that moment to be like, that picture book, Metal Gear. What's with that hedgehog that looks like my twin? Back at Jure, Kairi and Umika are shocked to hear that Tuma didn't beat up a middle schooler and retrieve the collection piece. Tuma then starts to mention how Yuki started talking about a book when Kogure is suddenly there. After nearly giving the rogues a heart attack, Kogure shows them the very book that Tuma was talking about. According to him, the author lived in the same era as Lupin, and apparently they knew each other. So, author Lupin may have based a relic in Sign of Hinano Valley off that collection piece. Tuma asks if the bracelet really is magic, and everyone notes how uncharacteristic it is that he'd believe that. Tuma says that he doesn't, and flashes back. Aya, having read Sign, wishes the bracelet were real. Tuma thinks that's ridiculous, but Aya thinks that fantasy stories can be soothing, and can help tackle reality. Back in the present, where Tuma can transform into a magical thief by using a plastic Yu-Gi-Oh prop, he volunteers to retrieve the bracelet, which couldn't possibly let anyone run fast. Don't be silly.
I feel like we need to address the fact that we're talking about a kid's show that then talks about children's media and how it affects adults.
Mm-hmm.
While we're also talking about us, the 2 adults, and how we feel about this children's media.
I can't believe they're calling us out.
I was going to say, I'm glad that they didn't call us out, because it was a very positive interpretation of us.
They still noticed us. I'd count that as a calling out.
Also, I am going to call out Talba for having the California state flag in his room for some reason. Or maybe
Why?
that's Aya's room.
They just really like California.
They just like the bear.
It's a good bear.
Like, if there were multiple bears in that room and then one of them was just the California state flag, I would have lost my shit. It's just, they just like bears. They just didn't know that this one was also the California state flag.
Maybe they just like this one particular bear. Other bears, eh. Take or leave, but this is the perfect bear right here. So, we then cut to Yuki's house, where he's looking at a picture of Haruka and just brooding or whatever.
He's too young to brood.
You're never too young to brood.
He's sulking. It's very it's different. It's not very different, but it's a very important difference.
Brooding light. Diet brooding. Suddenly, a calling card flies in and sticks to his corkboard. The card promises that tomorrow, the treasure will be stolen before the athletic meets. The security in Yuki's palace then increases to 100%, and Blue will have to fight Shadow Yuki in order to steal his hearts. In a moment of panic, Yuki runs to the treasure's hiding place to make sure it's still there. It is, but Yuki assumes that if he brings it home, it'll be stolen, so he leaves it there for the night. We then finally cut over to the police HQ, where everyone realizes that the Ganglar's speed must have been tied to the collection piece, and the thieves must have taken it. Although Sakia thinks beating this guy will be easy, Hilltop and Jim inform the team that he's still dangerous. According to Jim's analysis, Nitro Boy's bombs are equivalent to 10 kilograms of TNT. That's a lot of TNT!
Yeah, and I feel like they need to explain, do you mean each individual bomb, or is it that they can potentially reach 10 kilograms of TNT? Because if every one of those spheres has 10 kilograms of TNT in it, that's insane.
Yeah, so, even to the Pat Ranger, that is pretty dangerous.
He just ran across half the city throwing the bombs wantonly. Like, this guy has the highest kill count. It was entirely off screen. They just show us the rubble in this scene.
So yeah, even with their armor, one hit would still hurt, and they'd only be able to soak one, maybe two of them, according to Tsukasa. So I'm gonna guess that's 10 kilograms each.
You know, I feel like we need to remember this, so that anytime they're taken out by attack, we know it was harder than 10 kilograms. It struck with more force than 10 kilograms of TNT.
Alright, noted.
Lupin Red can punch with more than 10 kilograms of TNT's force.
Well, you know, blunt force is a little bit different. Completely different from an explosion. So, this is worrying, of course, but Kaiichiro's too mad about some guy throwing bombs around to be concerned about his own safety. If somebody is making noise, then he's mad. Nobody disturbs the public with explosions. We return to Jure, where Kairi and Umika are discussing Tuma. Umika thinks that maybe Tuma is delaying stealing the collection piece because he remembered Aya, and thus feels sorry for the kid. Kairi, however, doesn't think Tuma is that soft. And we leave it at that.
It's just another, consistent showing of Kairi being, on the surface, an idiot who's not paying attention, and yet understanding the situation with his teammates more than I think, the other understands about. Because Kairi knows Umika more than Toma, as we saw in episode 7, but now we know that Kairi knows Toma more than Umika does. And it's just, I'm glad they're being consistent with the whole, I look like an idiot, but really I'm very perceptive to my teammates, but they'll never know.
I'll never allow them to know this, so I'm just going to take the day off.
On the surface, I'm an idiot. On the second level, I'm more perceptive, but deep down, I really am an idiot.
I'm 100% dumbass.
Because I don't act on those perceptions until somebody asks me about them, but...
There's 10% perception, so it's 110%. How does that work? I don't know. I don't know math. Why would I?
I'm a dumbass.
The next day, Yuki is practicing when he's suddenly tossed off his feet by an explosion. Nitro Boy has finally found him and wants that collection piece. Yuki tries the same trick that he tried on Blue. Tell him that he got rid of the treasure, and that he can search him if he thinks he's lying. Nitro Boy then gives the most "then perish" line I think we've seen in this show, at which point Yuki knows he's fucked up.
This has the same energy as Sonic Adventure Eggman's "Run away before I make mincemeat out of you." Just all of a sudden super intimidating.
Yeah, I don't know how the treasure, you can search me if you want, then die. So, thankfully, Nitro Boy's aim is terrible because a measly 13.23 second lap time could never allow you to escape a mad bomber who's precise.
The best thing about that timing is we don't know how long what distance he ran, so that time means literally nothing.
All I know is it's pathetic, just absolutely dreadful. Yuki runs all the way to the shrine where the bracelet is located, and it's apparently still there. But then, alas, Yuki has come to the wrong neighborhood. Blue reveals that he was hiding behind the wall, while Red and Yellow flank him. And then several bombs join the fray behind them, but those were unexpected by the other surrounding party. The Phantom Thieves then turn their attention to the far more dangerous Ganglar, because Yuki's probably a pushover. They Kaito change and begin fighting the Ganglar, except Blue, who turns to Yuki and tells him to run. He also tells Yuki that just putting it on won't give him any power. He also has to believe in himself first. Before running, he must tell himself, in his heart, I am fast.
I love inspirational Toma.
It is actually a good line.
Yeah, it's legitimately good, but I just love that, he had to think about this for several hours. Not because he wanted to, but because he had to, because otherwise he's just going to go, hey kid, you can do it.
Just book it out. Come on. See that guy? You want to run away from that, right? Do it.
And if he doesn't motivate you, just imagine I'm chasing you.
I'm more terrifying than explosions.
I mean, he is.
So, Yuki, not all that genre savvy, believes him and escapes. While running, Yuki realizes that the sound of the wind has changed, and that it's been so long since he'd heard the wind like that. The Lupin Rangers are then in a forest, and also there are Podamen. Fighting happens, and the Lupin Rangers just go wild with their guns today. Like, man, the choreography just called for flipping that gun around as if it weren't even being gripped.
I noticed during this scene their main strategy seemed to be lie on the ground.
Yep, lie on ground, shoot, shoot, shoot.
And I just like
I will continue shooting.
I just like the idea of a fighting style of like, now you can't get me. Come after me, motherfucker.
Even your low kicks can't hit me here. As long as you aim like towards the leg region, you could probably still hit my head, honestly. So Nitro Boy tries to make his escape while they're busy, only to be stopped by the police. Red's not happy to see the cops there, but since the treasure is already gone, he decides to end the fight quickly. Activating scissors, he throws his boomerang, which cuts down a tree before cutting down Nitro Boy, which also tosses the Pat Rangers aside, which must be a nice bonus. Gauche walks in and chides Nitro Boy for wasting such a good treasure. She then grows him and leaves, and Big Boy apologizes to Granio. Good Striker wanders in, and though they don't rudely grab him, the Pat Rangers do interrupt his intro and activate the Pat Kaiser. Saying this, the Lupin Rangers decide they're done with Ganglars for today. Big Boy doesn't fare well in battle, especially once the yo-yo comes out. The Pat Kaiser uses the Pat Kaiser lockup strike and finishes the job. Big Boy, at last, becomes an explosion and fades away into nothingness.
There was a couple of weird lines during this fight where Jago is saying, like, explosions are a work of art, and then the police are like, the police reveal that they are not in favor of graffiti art by saying that art that disturbs the public isn't art. But then Tsukasa says, yo-yos are the real art, or something like that.
I'll show you art. Here's this yo-yo fucker.
Tsukasa is weirdly into this yo-yo, because she had a line when that was introduced of like, the police and yo-yos go well together. I don't know why she likes yo-yos so much.
You can never overcome the Eiffel Tower. Time to walk the dog.
To walk the dog straight to hell.
God, now I just wish that was just Tsukasa's thing. She just had one-liners based on yo-yos.
It's so against her character, but in a way that's funny. It's not out of character, but it's not a character trait you would expect.
No. So, at the athletic meet, the Phantom Thieves observe Yuki from the shadows. With newfound confidence, Yuki manages to keep up with the rest of the runners, but can't find the willpower to pull through. But then, as everything else fades to white, Yuki feels the hand of blue push him forward, which is a great metaphor, because we get the image of Tuma pushing a child, which is something he'd definitely do.
I kind of hoped that they would just cut back to reality and Toma was actually shoving the kid. Like, go faster, you need to do this!
You're not allowed here, sir!
You can't lose, you ruin this whole story if you lose.
Anyway, Yuki tells himself once again that he is fast, and blazes ahead of the other runners. In the background, Kyra and Umika try to silently cheer, and Blue smiles, and then he smiles slightly less, as though he caught himself in a moment of happiness and just couldn't allow it. Like, legitimately, that's actually what it looks like. I feel like that was the direction for the scene. Give a big smile, and then just sort of correct yourself.
Alright, well, that was fun, I guess. It was nice to pretend to have emotions for an episode. Time to go back to being Toma.
Yuki finishes first, and though he didn't quite break his goal, he gets 11.28 seconds, a new personal best. It's a far more respectable score. Haruka congratulates him, and promises him that she'll do her best as well. Before the Phantom Thieves can leave, Yuki runs over to them with the intent to return the bracelets. Blue then reveals that the bracelet Yuki is holding is a fake. He had sent the notice in hopes that Yuki would reveal where the treasure was hidden, and he did. And then he stole it.
I love that reveal so much. Just, the actual collection piece wouldn't have helped you at all, but just to really rub it in, that's a useless piece of plastic, motherfucker.
It's double useless. Blue then assures him that he had shown himself his true speed. He then remarks that fantasy stories are good every once in a while, before leaving to return a treasure from Arsene Lupin's collection to an old man who appears out of nowhere, so that the old man can put that treasure into a book, then give them their next target, who will likely be a member of the Hell Mob, who has a magical ability and also gains another magical ability from a different treasure originally stolen by Arsene Lupin, who will be killed and brought back to life by a mad doctor who is also a member of the Hell Mob. But perhaps, maybe one day, another fantasy story can help Tuma find his way. Sometimes these metaphors don't always work out the best in this sort of media, when it's not completely grounded in reality.
Look, Polnareff, there's no way that a Stan could create a mirror world.
Man in the Mirror a few years later, guess what, fucker?
You hear that, Kakyoin? I feel like I like this episode a lot just because it comes after episode 11.
I think it's a pretty solid episode even
Yeah,
still, though. Even ignoring the context of the last one.
Yeah, it is a really good episode, but it doesn't jump out to me the way that my other favorite episodes do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll hold it for the next episode, but when we get to the next episode, there's a lot of things to like about it. But now for the post-episode discussion.
Alright, so I guess we'll just quickly go through the... Yep, Ganglar. So I like Genko. I think he was an alright Ganglar.
Yeah, for some reason, his name is the one I remember. I remember Genko Kopamino. I don't know why, because he's not even that big in this episode.
Yeah, I like the spin of, both of his abilities are really useful, but he is a huge idiot, so he loses one almost immediately in the episode and never gets it back.
Mm.
He legit would have been one of the toughest Ganglars, possibly even rivaling Destra. But no, he just gets his treasure stolen.
It's always interesting when a villain is set up to have, these incredible powers, and the heroes just deal with them in a way to avoid those powers.
Yep.
Which is the smart thing to do. That's what they ought to be doing, but a lot of people, feel cheated by that.
Well, here at least, again, both of his abilities are dangerous, so even if he loses one, he's got really dangerous bombs.
Yeah, and I'll just make it clear, the people who feel cheated by that need to deal with it. I think they're being unreasonable.
Sometimes it's just funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall though, definitely not quite as important in the episode itself.
Yeah, he's just
since the treasure is the focus, but not in the way it usually is. It's the treasure in the hands of someone else.
Yeah, he's a threat, but not in any thematically appropriate way.
Yeah, he's the monster of the week, which is why his fight scene is pretty quick. I do love, though, that, the moment the cops arrive, Red's like, hey, wait a second, we already got his treasure, let's just kill him.
Yeah. Glad Red has multiple, man, fuck this, buttons now. But, yeah, that's really all to say about the Ganglar. So, This episode at least had a pretty obvious theme of media affecting people in real life. Mm-hmm. And they say in the text the obvious moral of you can be inspired by fictional events, and that's fine. Sometimes you need to. But I think it's really interesting how we have, instead of the, what I view as the traditional version of this, where, somebody would tell a story to Toma, and then he would tell a slightly different version of that story to the kid, and then the kid would be inspired. Instead, the kid and Toma go to the same story, but walk away with different lessons. Mm-hmm. And then Toma and the kid have to come together to, coalesce those lessons into a bigger, better, more important lesson.
And also just, the fact that Toma is, really secondhand in all this. The kid read the story directly and is directly inspired by it. For Toma, it's more like his loved one read it and was inspired by it, and he took the lesson from that.
Yeah. And it really illustrates, even without saying a word about this, it illustrates that when they say, you can be inspired by fiction, they acknowledge it's not going to only be fiction, though.
Yeah, it's the lessons others get from it, and just the way you can recontextualize it, because then it's Tuma takes the lesson he learned from Aya, and then he gives that to the kid who read the book that he didn't, but Aya did, and he's able to give him something else.
Yeah, I just bring this up because I see a lot of people be really weirdly resistant to the idea of learning from fiction or taking lessons from fiction, or people saying, I was inspired by this fictional show or whatever. With this idea real life is the best teacher and far more important, but real life and fiction are so intertwined and they affect each other and they affect your perception of each media. It's insane to say that fiction doesn't matter because fiction is inspired by real life and fiction inspires real life.
Nah, I'm too cool to learn anything from anything. I just consume media, and I never think about it ever. So anyway, what am I doing here?
The podcast just blinks out of existence. Our one or two viewers who I don't understand what happened to the other episodes. I know they're here. Where's the Twitter gone? This is all an elaborate prank. We think this is dumb, actually.
I don't care about anything. But anyway, yeah, I think it's nice to see Toma being able to inspire someone. That is rare from him, but also very sweet.
And I mentioned it earlier, but I still love the double, not double twist, but the double layers of the magic was inside you all along. Because, we, the audience, already know Ganglar stuff doesn't work, or collection pieces don't work for humans except for the VS vehicles, because those are special. Yep. And the kid doesn't know that, but the audience already knows, that's not really it. But the thing is, they can't just say that to the kid, so they have to show it that, by the way, we replaced that useless item with a different useless item.
A further useless item. Nobody wants this. Keep it as a souvenir if you want, but we don't want it back. It took me 5 minutes to make.
You thought snake oil cured your flu, but we really just gave you water.
I also like the extra layer of, Yuki's whole thing is that he wants to inspire someone, and yet he's the one who needs a different lesson, because when he just read the story, he said, "Oh, cool bracelet."
Yeah. I don't know what the story would actually be about, so I can't do the rest of that meme. And it is nice that Toma is there to give him the lesson he thinks he needs of hunkering down and becoming a faster runner to inspire Haruka. But Toma's also there just to give him the lesson he really needs of how to really inspire people. Yeah. And sometimes you have to trick them. Maybe that's not the best lesson. Sometimes you have to act overtly and covertly.
You have to zag on them.
But I'm not the best at theme dissection anyways, so let's move on to character development. I briefly touched on Kairi's stuff being reinforced, which is nice. It's important to have. But this is obviously a Toma-centered episode, and I feel like this cements him as being in my bottom half for the next go around. Because he doesn't grow in the same way as everyone else does.
I mean, it kind of makes sense in that, like, he's the oldest, so
Yeah.
technically he's the most mature, but also he's very stunted by the loss of his fiancée.
Yeah.
So, like, he would have his shit together, except he doesn't, so
Right.
he's in this really weird spot where, like, he's not got much to learn that he hasn't already.
Yeah. And I don't want to... It feels like we just learned the same thing about Toma, but more so. Like, he was really affected by the loss of his fiancée. No, really. He was really affected by the loss of his fiancée. And they do the interesting stuff, like I mentioned earlier, of him inspiring Yuki and how that ties in with Yuki. But really, I feel like we learned more about Yuki than we did about Toma.
I also think it's interesting how we get another moment of just, like, what it is about Aya that Toma loves, because, of course, we already have the cooking thing.
Yeah.
But we also have this sort of aspect, which I don't want to say goes against him, but, like, yeah, as they mentioned in the episode, Toma's, like, the least likely person to really draw the same sort of thing Aya would from fiction, but, like, he has an appreciation for that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think Aya introduced the concept of fun to Toma. He really seems like the most joyless motherfucker on the planet, outside of things that Aya specifically told him about.
We need Aya to be back alive so we know why she loves him. How did you two, like, start? I mean, you're fine together, but, like,
Yeah.
how?
I know this isn't what the show is about, but can you please explain this? I'm confused. But yeah, during this run of episodes, we've not had anyone else have, like, a second character episode. So I can't really draw comparisons, but... Well, even the bad episode we just watched, the stuff we learned about Sakya, was different and added to his character rather than reinforcing it.
Yeah.
Actually, was that the first Sakya episode?
I would count the second episode as one, because that's the one where he screwed up a whole lot.
Right, I think that was the third episode.
Or third? Yeah, oh yeah, third, because
But that's fine. I only remember this because I have great memories for things that don't matter. But
yeah, second episode was properly introducing the Pat Rangers.
yeah. So, yeah, Toma doesn't... It's kind of sad because, like I mentioned, he was my favorite character at first, and then he just sort of couldn't keep up with everyone else's development.
He's the Jagan of the group. Starts strong, but doesn't really gain much from level ups.
Yeah. And he's not a bad character or poorly written at all, he just doesn't hit me the way that everyone else hits me.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, if Sakya weren't so fucking intolerable when he talked to Umika, Toma would probably be dead last. But I refuse to put him under Sakya because he hasn't done anything yet.
You haven't fucked up that badly, Toma.
Anything that caught your eye that you want to talk about?
I don't think I have anything else to talk about that I haven't already mentioned.
Any predictions then?
Yeah, there's not much to really go off of Tuma here.
Yeah.
He's just gonna keep being Tuma. For the next episode preview, I guess Umika's gonna have her first good date of the show.
I feel like I should stop asking for predictions because just the very nature of this show doesn't really lend itself to theories. Or
I mean, it does from
predictions.
time to time.
Yeah. Both in the sense of the, like, obvious cliffhangers, but I'm blanking on things to really, like, draw on for an example, but you're not particularly concerned with what's going to happen in the future. Like, the Rangers are going to take out the Ganglars, and
Yeah.
the only real question is if their loved ones are coming back.
From time to time, they do drop hints, but it has been a few episodes. I don't remember when it was, when Destra and Ghosh were just, like, discussing the nature of the collection pieces, And I am interested in where that's going.
All right.
But they haven't really dropped anything new in that regard, so who knows?
I think that was episode 5, because that was the one with Peggy. And that was what Ghosh was confronting him on, was seeing Peggy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's been a while. It's been 7 episodes. Jesus.
So I hope they get back to that. I want to know more about that, because I bet Kogure knows something about that.
But, I will say, when I first watched this, I wasn't really, like, chomping at the bit to get back to any general plot. I just like seeing these characters do things.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, technically, they're doing things is the plot.
yeah. I'm really glad how plot light this season is. Some people don't seem to be able to handle it, but I really appreciate it because it just let the characters be characters.
Yep.
Because that's what I always end up wanting at the end of any given media is I want more character interaction.
Yep.
That's why
Give me that.
That's why I'm addicted to incorrect quotes. But that is enough for this episode. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at LRVSPR. Fafnir is at Fafnir Masamune. If you want to email us, you can email us at LupinRecap vs PatReview at gmail.com. Email us literally anything. Please. Interact with us. We're dying.
Squirtle.
God damn it, I was going to say that, but I thought, nah, that's too much of a non sequitur. If they haven't seen that comic, they're not going to know what I'm talking about.
Everyone assumes it's some kind of in-joke. It's just the internet. It's in-jokes nowadays. It's all you get.
And on that depressing note, we will see you in the next episode.
Adieu.